Hi, everybody. This is Eugene Popa, your host for this event for the Hypnosis Masters Summit. And I'm super excited to have with us right now none other than Adriana James, who is a woman of force, of power, of character. She's an expert. She's a leader in the field of neuro-linguistic programming and also NLP coaching and timeline therapy. Adriana is a prodigy. She started reading and writing when she was about 3 years old. And by 7 years old, she is already national champion at violin, of all things. So she's also virtuoso, and she won 19 top European awards. In 1998, she became certified as a trainer of NLP, and she has a PhD, and her thesis is in alternative modes of consciousness. Today, Adriana is a master trainer of NLP and also timeline therapy. She's a hypnosis master trainer and NLP coaching master trainer, and she has published very successful books such as Value and the Evolution of Consciousness, as well as Timeline Therapy Made Easy. She also co-authored a couple of books with Ted James, namely The Secret of Creating Your Future and The Lost Secrets of Ancient Hawaiian Huna. So let's welcome Adriana James. Adriana, thank you so much for being here with us today.
Thank you for having me. And after such an introduction, I hope I can live up to it.
Absolutely. I know you'll live up to it because, I mean, the introduction is just a little introduction. It's just to get people to know you, but we want to learn from you. We are here, eager to learn all the things that you know about hypnosis. So please tell us your secrets.
Well, we teach hypnosis in a little bit different way compared to other schools that teach hypnosis. And that's not to say that other schools are teaching it wrongly. There is no such thing as right or wrong. It's our philosophy that everybody who teaches hypnosis or NLP or timeline therapy or coaching are doing the world a great favor. But we kind of take a different approach in terms of kind of demystifying hypnosis and taking away the magic. See, movies didn't do us any favor because they present hypnosis as power over an individual. Power, I am the big bad hypnotherapist and I am going to do things to you. So it's this I have power over you approach, which we don't take. We recognize that actually hypnosis, and this is important, all hypnosis is self-hypnosis. Now, what does that mean? It simply means that it's nothing I can do to you that you're not doing to yourself. Then what's the secret? The secret is cooperation, collaboration, and also you as the client following, very important, following my suggestions, and you are doing it to yourself. Now you say, but how is it possible? It's not possible. How come that means there are people who go to hypnosis shows and they do all sorts of things. First of all, hypnosis is a numbers game. Now, what do I mean by that? So it's an interesting thing, right? What do I mean by that? It's kind of like in sales, you know that a certain percentage of people will buy the product. But sure. It's like Rapport depth of hypnosis shows us that fresh to hypnosis, so people who have never been hypnotized ever before, 20% of people will naturally access a light trance. 60% of people will access naturally a medium type trance, and only 20% of the people will access a deep type trance. And also out of the 20% of the people that are accessing a deep type trance, which means they are highly suggestible, only the people who are extroverts are the people that will come on stage, and they are very carefully selected by the hypnotherapist, the person that's on stage. They're not selected randomly. Nothing happens. It's a whole science behind the hypnosis show. So therefore, coming back to where we started, all hypnosis is self-hypnosis. All of us are hypnotizable to a certain degree. And there is no pride, by the way, in saying, I can't be hypnotized.
Well,
Now,
there are people who say, exactly like you said, well, I can't be hypnotized because I'm so smart and intelligent. So you can't hypnotize me because my amazing genius.
no, it has nothing to do with that. That's a type of thinking that was prevalent at the end of 1800s. There was a lot of experiments done at the time by medical doctors, and I wanted to be careful not to confuse authority versus hypnosis. So if I'm a person of authority, and let's think 1800s, a medical doctor was a person of authority. And at the time, the experiments in hypnosis were done usually with mentally retarded people, low IQ people, and also with hysterics. And because the belief at the time was that only these kind of people could be hypnotized. Now,
and what
that
were
all
the results there?
Well, the results were phenomenal, actually, because they were growing tumors and taking them away with hypnosis. They were doing all sorts of things. But the belief, this is very important, the belief was that only mentally restricted people, low IQ people, and hysterics could be hypnotized, because a person of sound mind cannot be hypnotized, right? Now, all of that has changed, especially with the work of Dr. Milton Erickson in the 1900s, and he turned that upside down. Now, think of it, Erickson was a medical doctor as well. And he had to be very careful with what he was putting forth as a medical doctor inside the medical field. However, he has discovered something very important, which leads to where we started, because he said, actually, stupid people cannot be hypnotized, because hypnosis is a matter of, as I said, following instructions. Now, let me give you a very simple example that comes from Dave Ellman. If I was to say to you, and I'm not, but if I was to say to you, close your eyes and relax the little muscles around the eyes until they're so relaxed, you can't relax them anymore. So relaxed, you can't relax them anymore. And then hold on to that relaxation and test your eyes and make sure they stay closed. If you open your eyes, what have you not done? You haven't followed my instructions, because I said to you, test them and make sure they stay closed.
And I wanted to show you that I can control myself and I have power over me, and I can open my eyes whenever I want to, because I am so independent.
No, actually, what you're doing, if you're saying that, you're showing me that you don't have control over you. Because if you do have control over you, your eyes will stay closed, because that's what you told them to do. Because your eyes respond to you, not to me.
Yeah.
Now think of it. When I said close your eyes, is it anything I can do to make you close your eyes? Whose responsibility is to close your eyes, mine or yours?
Mine.
Good. Now, when I said to you, relax the little muscles around the eyes so they're so relaxed you can't relax them anymore, whose responsibility is to relax the muscles, mine or yours?
Mine.
Good. And when I said to you, hold on to that relaxation and make sure they stay close, whose responsibility is to do that, mine or yours?
Mine.
So, is that good? So there's anything I can do. I mean, I can take a piece of tape and put it over your eyes and force it to keep quiet. But when I take it off, it's gonna, your eyebrows will disappear. So that will look a little weird. But is it anything I can do to you? Now, this is very important about hypnosis. We're joking, but this is very important. It's a principle in hypnosis. So is it anything I can do to you that you don't do yourself?
Well, in terms of, I was going to in terms of suggestions, no, because all you can do is just tell me stuff. Then it's up to me, right?
To you.
If I do want to follow those suggestions or not.
Exactly. Absolutely. And therein lies the whole secret of hypnosis. Now, what did we do then? What would we just do when you pretended, because you know fully that you can remove the relaxation and open your eyes anytime you choose. You know fully.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So Is that hypnosis? No, not yet. But what we just did then, we bypassed what we call the critical faculty. Now, let me explain for the audience who is not sure what the critical faculty means. So let's imagine we have a ball here, an imaginary ball, and that's the totality of our conscious mind, which is our rational, logical mind that we associate it when we say, I think, I am, I do this and the other, right? And what we call the subconscious mind or the unconscious mind, which is the other part of our intelligence. I am fond of calling the unconscious mind the intelligence of our body. The two minds have different functions. Let's not get confused. They have different functions and they are not designed to have the same functions. They're not meant to have the same functions. And the functions of the unconscious mind are called, in our school, we call them the prime directives of the unconscious mind. If you want, we can talk about this a little later, but let's come to our
Yes,
ball,
please.
yeah? So together, this is the conscious mind and the unconscious mind together. Now, I'm gonna hold my hand up here at the top of this imaginary ball and imagine just up here, just this much, imagine a line like a threshold right here. Above the threshold is what we are conscious of. People think they live lives consciously. No. Above 95% of our reactions, our behaviors, are all led and directed by the unconscious mind. That may come as a surprise, but that's how it is.
But
and I can
how about,
explain. And
I wanted to ask,
go
because, you
ahead.
know, nowadays everybody is like, oh, living consciously and being conscious and aware. Where does that fall in? Because, you know, you said 90% or maybe even more of everything we do, or all our functions are automatic, they're unconscious. So when people talk about, you know, being conscious or living consciously, where does that fall into?
Well, it's the consciousness equals awareness. Awareness of what? Good question, huh? Awareness of one's own existence, which means I'm aware at every moment in time of what I'm thinking, every thought I'm having, what I'm feeling, every emotion I go through. How am I feeling right now? Every function, everything that I do, it's the act of awareness. And I would like to propose that most people are not aware. What was exactly that you were thinking of 1 minute ago? See what I mean? So the act of awareness is consciousness. Now, people think consciousness is up there somewhere, and that leads us out of the field of hypnosis. But consciousness begins in being aware of everything that runs in the conscious mind and the unconscious mind, and that's a process that may take years to complete. So let's come back to our ball, yeah? So above that little line, which we call the critical faculty, which I'm going to explain in a moment, that's the threshold. It's what we are conscious of. Just stay with me, okay? I promise this will make sense. And everything that's underneath is what we're calling the field or the area where is the unconscious or subconscious, depending on, you know, which language are you using this, content. And that line is that the threshold is called the critical faculty. Let's define critical faculty. So critical faculty is actually the let me see how to put it so it's very easy to understand. It's that area where it's that, I'm trying to make it very easy, to say it very easy, so it's not convoluted, yeah? So it's that area that we care to distinguish between reality and fantasy.
Okay.
So when I'm looking outside, I know I have a camera in front of me. I know I'm using a certain program. I have a laptop. I'm looking around me. I'm in this room here, and I'm aware of my external surroundings. So that's the external world. And most people are focused on the external world. Now, if I close my eyes, I can imagine around this computer here, I don't know, rabbit ears or anything I want. That's fantasy. Now, at the conscious level, of course, we know the difference between the two. Funny enough, at the unconscious level, the unconscious mind doesn't know very well the reality between imaginary things and things that we see outside in the real world. That's why hypnosis is so useful, for instance, in performance enhancement. Because I think it was the University of Hawaii. I did a study, and they took a basketball team, and it was in a modeling project, which actually comes from NLP, but we can apply this just as well in hypnosis. And they divided the team in three groups. One group shot real baskets that so practiced physically.
Yeah.
The other third of the team imagined and practiced shooting perfect baskets, but they didn't practice physically at all. And the third part of the team played pool, or billiard, how you call it, yeah? So they didn't practice at all. Now, of course, they didn't improve at all, but the third of the team that imagined practicing shooting perfect baskets improved. It was 1 or 2% difference, but almost just as much as the third of the team that practiced really shooting baskets. Now, wow, that's amazing. That's amazing.
That is a big number right there. Yeah, for sure.
Absolutely. Now, that's a principle that we also use in timeline therapy when we insert goals in the future timeline. It's a principle that applies there too. Because what do we do when we have a goal, when we have a direction, when we have something we move toward? We imagine it first, don't we? It comes as a thought. Now, how do we do that? What do we put in there? Now, these are things that one needs to learn, because together with the conscious content, we have the unconscious content. Now, what could be? Let's say that I'm putting a goal, because many people put financial goals nowadays. I want to, let's say that by such and such date, I'm working toward having X amount of money in my bank account. Let's say, just a simple, mundane goal, right? Because everybody can relate to it. Together with the conscious content that I just said it out loud, come in all the unconscious content. Maybe unconsciously, when I'm saying this, I have a little image that goes in, which I see my mother telling me nobody in my family ever made money. Or I hear somebody say to me, money is evil. People with money do bad things, and so on and so forth.
Money don't grow in trees.
Right. Stuff like that. Exactly, Eugene. So all that stuff goes in there. So the act of being conscious is to be aware of all that, eliminate what does not produce the results that we want, and leave in there only what drives us, only what is conducive to the results we want, because the unconscious mind will always look and try to create everything that the conscious mind gives it. Listen, the unconscious mind is not the thinker inside you. It's not its role to think. It's not its job to think. The unconscious mind feels emotions. The unconscious mind has 19 or 20 different other jobs it does in the body. But its job is not to think logically, and it doesn't. But what does it do? It faithfully brings into fruition, in other words, makes happen every thought, at least every pattern of thoughts that we dwell upon. So with hypnosis, we can learn then how to insert suggestions, bypassing that line that's the critical faculty, bypassing that line in such a way that the unconscious mind starts creating what we want. Now, through the little exercise that I just described, close your eyes, relax the muscles around the eyes, all we do is we bypass that critical faculty. Now I say, how do I do that? But you do that all the time. You do that every day of your life. Let's take another example that's very common, movies. Eugen, give me an example of a movie that everybody can relate to.
Star Wars.
Star Wars, okay. So in Star Wars, as they were having the Death Star exploding and, the armies of robots and all of that, and it was the Emperor and all this kind of stuff happening, and the swords of light, the saber of light and all that kind of stuff, right? Exactly. And when you saw the movie then, the first time, did you just walk out of the theater thinking, oh, that's not possible, that this is crap, I'm walking out of here?
No, I felt like I wish it never ended.
Right. But what you did and what I did and what all of us do in that moment, you think of any sci-fi movie, it's the same thing. In that moment, you suspended your critical faculty and you pretended that what you saw was real, because otherwise you can't enjoy the movie. You can enjoy the movie because it's not real, but you pretended as if it was real. Now, same thing in hypnosis. You pretend that everything happens exactly as the hypnotherapist suggests. And that's the big secret of how to make hypnosis work. If you follow the instructions and you pretend, it's going to happen that way. Yes, Eugen.
So, this is a question I get a lot, and I would like very much your answer to this. I have a lot of clients who come in and it says, well, I don't know if it worked because all I did was just pretend. So, I was just pretending, but nothing really happened. There was no real change because all I did was just to pretend not to change. I didn't change. I was just pretending I'm changing.
So there are two things there that come to my mind immediately. First of all, again, Dr. Erickson said, my patients are my patients. He was a medical doctor, yeah? So my patients are my patients because they are out of rapport with their unconscious minds. Now, just contemplate that for a second.
Yeah.
They are out of rapport with their unconscious minds, which means, in other words, let's put it plain and simple, yeah? The communication between the conscious mind and the unconscious mind, the trust and cooperation between these two functions of our minds, it's not working correctly, which means the conscious mind doesn't trust the unconscious mind and doesn't work in a integrative way, conscious unconscious integration. So that's the first thing that comes to mind. Second thing that comes to mind, again, as you said that, and remind me what you just said, because now it just escaped. My mind
people
has
say I didn't really change.
Thoughts.
I only pretended.
Yeah. Right. So Dave Ellman comes to mind, which was one of, again, the great names in hypnosis, and he was a very paradoxical thinker. That's why I love Dave Ellman hypnosis a lot. Yeah, he said also something very much, that there is actually no difference between pretending and doing it.
Like in the example with the people who are shooting baskets.
Right. That's one way of looking at it. Yes, that's no difference. So, which leads me in another direction, which is also important. So let's think of it. People think that hypnosis is something so different from what they already have experienced.
Yeah.
But as you look at different stages of hypnosis, from very light to the depth of hypnosis, and you take it one by one, people have experienced already all those stages of hypnosis without formal trance. Let's take an example. Yeah. As we go from let's say medium trance, for instance, one of them is rapport. And rapport in NLP is defined differently from rapport in hypnosis. In NLP, we know is the process of matching and mirroring, which teaches us how to get in rapport with any person we so wish. in hypnosis is defined as the magical mystical state where the patient or the client sees or hears only the operator or the hypnotherapist. Now, have you ever experienced that before? Let's take example. Let's say you are in a coffee shop with the person you love the most in the world. And you are engrossed in the conversation with this person, and all you see here is just them. And then you hear from somewhere a voice coming and going, "Would you like more coffee?" And you go, "Huh?" It was like coming from another world because you were in this rapport only with the person in front of you. Now, the same rapport happens when you do hypnosis, but you weren't formally hypnotized. Another phenomenon in hypnosis called eye catalepsy. When the eyes are closed and the eyelids are so heavy, they stay closed. Yeah, that's called eye catalepsy. Have you experienced eye catalepsy before? Without
Absolutely.
formal trance induction. Here is an example. It's late in the day, and would you believe it? It's almost 10 p.m. And they put on TV that movie, that movie that you wanted so badly to watch. And you go, maybe I'll just watch a little bit. And you watch, and then the commercials come in, the advertising comes in. And you go, I'm just going to close my eyes just for a moment. And you close your eyes. You don't fall asleep. You just close your eyes, and you hear the commercials end. And then you go, okay, the movie started. I'm just going to open my eyes. And you go like this. And your eyes don't open. Don't want to open. I mean, this is a common phenomenon. We all go through it. And that's already medium trance.
Yeah.
So let's take an example in deep trance now. How many people have ever been in a shopping mall and you thought you heard somebody call your name? And then you looked and it was nobody. Or you're in the shower sopping and you think you hear the phone ring. That's auditory hallucination. That's a deep trance phenomenon. So I would like to submit, and there's a whole list of this which we teach in the hypnosis trainings, right? Nice. So I would like to propose that everything that you experience in hypnosis with formal trance induction, you have already experienced. Therefore, and here is the important part, there is nothing in hypnosis that you experience that you haven't experienced before. Now, I do hypnosis shows as well for the purpose of teaching, only for the purpose of teaching when I teach, in a master practitioner, the hypnosis. And so I do hypnosis shows. And sometimes I have students come on in front of the room and they exhibit all the hypnotic phenomena. And then I say to them, are you in trance? And they go, no. And I go like this, and their hand goes up, and they aren't cataleptic, and they do all sorts of things. And I go, are you in trance? They go, no. I'm not. And I, being a trained hypnotherapist, I can recognize clearly that they are in trance. And you know exactly what I'm talking about because you're teaching this and very professional at it. So we know what that means. So, but that's because people think that hypnosis is very different from what they already have experienced in their normal day and normal life. And that's incorrect. Yeah, that's how I think of it.
Absolutely. I wanted to go back a little bit to that quote you said from Milton Erickson, that people have issues because they are not in rapport with their subconscious or unconscious mind. Would that mean that people who have any sorts of physical, emotional issues of whatever reason, that is because they are not in rapport with their conscious mind? Is that it?
No, I wouldn't put it that way. I would say, one of the functions of the unconscious mind is to present to the conscious mind emotions that are still stored in the memories of every cell in the body of significant emotional events of a negative nature that happened to us in the past. And let's face it, it's called life. Who here, had a perfect life? They never had a negative emotion. They never had an event where they felt anger, sadness, fear, hurt, guilt, and all other negative. Nobody. It's called life. We all go through it. We all have experienced events where we felt a lot of negative emotions. Now they're done and over. However, it's not very well known by everybody who's not taught or who didn't take trainings that all those memories, all the negative emotions are still stored in the body, in every cell of the body. I can go in the history of it. I can explain to you why is that the case and so on and so forth, but it will be too lengthy of an explanation. Anyway, the unconscious mind, one of the functions of the unconscious mind is to present this unresolved material to the conscious mind, not because your poor little unconscious mind is nasty, dirty, or evil, or wants to make your life miserable. No. The unconscious mind is in charge of preserving the body, and that's its highest function, that's highest prime directive. And so it knows that those negative emotions are not good for your health, mental health, emotional health, and even physical health. And so life's good, and all of a sudden the unconscious mind goes, whoop, here is a bunch of memories with negative emotions, and it's in your face. Would you like to handle them? Why? Because it wants to get resolution, meaning completion. It wants to get the learnings. Okay, what happened? What was the, not why, that's very important, not why it happened, but what's the purpose? What do I need to learn? What are the learnings that I need to get so that I never again in the future will go through such event ever again? So the unconscious mind has a function for doing that. And poor little unconscious mind doesn't want to keep their bad negative emotions. It feels bad. It wants to get rid of them. But so here is my little unconscious mind going, okay, Adriana, here's these negative emotions from the past. Would you like to handle them? Now I have two choices. Go, no, I don't want to pay attention to it and push them down again in the unconscious mind. I don't want to deal with that. I don't want to have anything to do with it. In which case the unconscious mind goes, okay, and later on it's going to do it again. Or I can go, okay, I don't like this. I don't like to have to deal with it, but I understand its purpose, so I better get the learning now. I'm getting it done and over. I'm going to say again the big word, bring the event to resolution, to completion. I make the event conscious. I get the learnings, and then I'm done and over with it. The negative emotions then can disappear. And that's the principle we use in an offshoot of hypnosis, which we call timeline therapy. Yeah. And so the negative emotions then are gone, and then it's fine. So it's not like your little unconscious mind, it's trying to make your life miserable. It's just trying to get rid of all unresolved content because it knows it's not good for your health. That's how it actually works.
Yeah. So
does that make sense?
Absolutely. And now you reminded me of another idea that, popped into my head from my unconscious to my conscious. What you said earlier, that when we are thinking of something, we are basically, what we are actually doing, when we are consciously thinking of something, what we are actually doing is we are actually telling the unconscious mind to bring us or to create that for us. So if I'm consciously thinking of success, then that's what I'm basically telling my unconscious mind to create for me. But it goes the other way around as well. If I'm consciously continuously thinking about, suffering and pain and sorrow, then that's what my unconscious will create for me. And that's something that most people don't understand. It's so important for them to understand, hey, when you think of stuff, you create stuff. Thinking is creating.
Listen, I've been, as you know, I grew up in Romania. And so I know the type of thinking that was prevalent there. And what we call that is away from type of thinking, which means away from pain, away from something bad. Now, there is another type of thinking that we need to learn, which is toward what we want. So away from what we don't want or toward what we want. And this is a matter of learning how to think. Because people say, I'm not thinking away from anything. I just don't want blah, fill in the blanks, whatever.
Yeah.
I don't
How do you want to feel?
to.
Yeah. How do you want to feel? I don't want to feel unhappy.
I don't want to feel unhappy. Yeah, that's totally away from.
Yeah, I
That's
know,
totally
I know.
away from. Because what do you have to think of when you think of, see, this is another prime directive of the unconscious mind. The unconscious mind cannot process negatives in consciousness. So play this with me. Don't think of a blue tree. What do you have to think of in order not to think of a blue tree?
Well, yeah, you have to think of the blue tree.
Exactly. My point exactly. So first, so it's at least a two-step process. First, you have to think of a blue tree. And then if you're even aware of that, you have to negate that thought and replace that with a green tree or, you know, a yellow reddish tree if it's in the fall or whatever, right? So, so the unconscious mind does not process negatives in consciousness, which means if we want to train the unconscious mind to create what we want, we need to learn how to give instructions to the unconscious mind in a different manner. Now, I gave you a handful just by saying this, because the unconscious mind, so we say this, the conscious mind, the one that we think rational, logical, is the goal setter. And the, being a goal in health, or being a goal in relationships, or being a goal in finances, or whatever. And the unconscious mind is the goal getter. Now, how does the unconscious mind get goals? It's called the reticular activating system. And it's a system that unconsciously looks to match for similarities. Let me give you an example so it's easy to understand. Let's say that I'm going to a football game, right? And it's a stadium and there are thousands and thousands of people all around me. And the unconscious mind is almost like a radar scanning like this. And it's thousands of people. Oh, this is George right there. And recognizes similarities. In the same way, operates in hypnosis. When we do hypnosis, again, could be for health, could be for giving up smoking, could be for losing weight, could be for any purpose that we choose. The unconscious mind will scan for similarities. Similarities to what? To what the conscious mind or what suggestions have been put inside the unconscious mind, either through the process of hypnosis or simply through the process of as how we think throughout the day. Because people go, but I don't want to be suggestible. I'm afraid of people suggesting to me things. Most people don't recognize that we are our greatest suggestors. We ourselves, me, Adriana, my conscious thinking is the greatest suggestor, the greatest hypnotist of the unconscious mind, if you wish. Because
Absolutely.
everything I hold in my head, everything I think of, constitutes suggestion to the unconscious mind. Therefore, it's my duty, my conscious mind's duty, to be aware, coming back to what does it mean to be conscious, yeah? To your question at the beginning, to be aware of what thoughts am I running in my head. Now, there are people, you know, there is a joke in the UK, you ask people, how's it going? And they say, not bad. Yeah. Now, what do you have to focus on? What do you hold in your mind when you say not bad?
Yeah. Not too bad, not too shabby.
Yeah, not too shabby, not too bad. Exactly. So it's like my example with the blue tree. Don't think of a blue tree. What do you think of when you don't think of a blue tree? What do you have to think of in order to not think of a blue tree? Well, you have first to think of a blue tree, then negate the blue tree, and then think of something else instead, right? If you do that.
There was a story, I think it was Tolstoy who initially came up with this stuff, if I remember correctly. Anyway, there's this urban legend, and it was about a Russian author, and I'm thinking it's Tolstoy, who allegedly his little brother wanted to play with him. And he told his little brother, go in the corner, and when you stop thinking about a polar bear, come and play. So, you know, he sat in the corner for the whole day, because as soon as he was coming out of the corner, he remembered the polar bear, and he had to go back a bit, get back into the corner, basically. So that's right. An urban legend about, what not to think about.
But that's a very important one, because it tells us how hard it is to actually train our focus and our conscious thinking to gear it exactly toward what we want. You know what's the simplest way not to think of a polar bear, right? Think of a polar bear and focus only on a polar bear, and you're going to notice in a matter of seconds you're thinking of something else.
Yeah. And it's so crazy, it's so crazy. But let me, I want to throw another one at you just to play with the metaphors, of course.
Go for it.
So there are people who say, but I cannot stop thinking about this. It comes up in my head again and again and again, and I want to get away from that thought. I want to get away from that idea, and I simply cannot stop it. It's killing me, and I want to have a happy life and think of roses and honey, but that thing keeps coming into my head. So is that a conscious thought or an unconscious one?
Yes.
Yes, absolutely.
So you're throwing me multiple questions in one, So let's see how am I going to unpack this one. So first of all, I got news for you, and you're not going to like it. I mean, you, Eugen, probably you are, but I'm not sure everybody's going to like it. Thoughts don't come to you from anywhere. Now, you may not be aware how those thoughts arise in your mind. I'm fine. I'm with you on that one. But thoughts don't come from somewhere. No, they don't. Thoughts are produced here. I'm talking about the context of hypnosis. I know you can take me outside of the context of hypnosis, and I don't want to step into that, because that would not be hypnosis. So in hypnosis, thoughts, and in NLP, and in timeline therapy, and everything that has to do with the two minds, conscious mind and the unconscious mind, thoughts don't come from anywhere. You are in charge of your thoughts. You are in charge of your thoughts.
So
read my lips. You are in charge of your thoughts. Hold on.
Okay.
Hold on. Give me a moment. I'm going to answer all the question. I promise. So that's the first part. Now, the second part is like this. And I know this is, again, not a common way of thinking, but it's extremely empowering. And it's a mind game, by the way. It's all there is. It's a mind game. Yeah, it's a way of thinking. If you think that thoughts come to you and you don't have any control over those thoughts, what can you do about it? And the answer is exactly, Eugen, nothing, nada, zilch, nil. Absolutely nothing. And then you are a victim or the effect of something over which you have no control. Now let's switch that. And let's pretend that we play this mind game in which you are absolutely in control of every thought that you experience. And you are in control over your life experience. Regardless of what happens, you have a choice. And I'm saying big words here. I can unpack each and every one of these words, and it's a lot to talk about it. Let's pretend for a second. I know this is not a perfect universe, but let's pretend for a second that you are the creator of every experience that you go through. Let's pretend. It's just a pretense. It's a game. And if that were to be correct, as in our game, then that means you have a choice. Let's say something bad happens. You have a choice to bang your head against the wall, to pull your hair out of your head, to yell at people, to get depressed, or you can say, okay, this really, really sucks. I don't like it. It's really bad. Okay, what can I do about it now? Take action and not end up in a Looney Tune or feel miserable or whatever. It's a choice. And people say, but I don't have a choice. That's the mistake. We do have a choice, but it requires an enormous amount of work and discipline over, and we're coming back, Eugen, where we started, over the thoughts that we run, and thus the suggestions we give to our unconscious minds, which the unconscious mind eventually will bring into reality and will create what we experience. That's how it works. I know it's not an easy thing. I know it requires steps and it requires mind discipline. And we are not, by the way, it's not people's fault. It's nobody's fault. We are not taught how to think this way. We are taught how to be at the effect. We are taught from early childhood. It's somebody else's fault. It's my dad's fault. It's my mom's fault. It's my cousin. It's my family. It's my upbringing. It's the fact that we're poor or we're rich, or it's the government. It's the economy. It's the teacher. It's the always we blame the outside world for as being the cause for our misfortune, or for us feeling bad, or for us feeling miserable. It's my husband. It's my wife. If they were different, then I would be happy. And the point I'm making here, the only point I'm making here, and I'm not saying you should do this or not. By the way, I'm very, very permissive. I'm very permissive when I teach trainings. I'm just telling you how it works. The point is that if you are a victim and you are at the effect, there is nothing you can do to change, because you can't change other people outside. I mean, you can try, you can fight with them. How easy it is to change. No, let's be serious. How easy it is to change another person. How easy it is to change something that's bigger than you, like the economy or the government's action, the politician, the prime minister, and so on and so forth. And sometimes most of the time, their decisions are not to our liking, right? But if we sit there and all we do is complain, okay, we feel better. What was the old saying? I remember. What was it saying? Versăm awful or something like this. How do you say in Romanian? Help me out, Eugenia.
Da. Ne
Yeah.
spunem awful, ne vărsăm awful, da.
Yeah, it makes you feel better in the moment, but does anything change? No, it doesn't.
It's just venting.
And what I'm sharing with you here has the potential of really changing your life, because you start thinking differently. You start focusing toward what you want instead. You start giving your unconscious mind, your little unconscious mind, suggestions to create something different. And funny enough, when you change, it's almost like miraculous or magic. Other people change around you. Why? Because you have changed. So if you want to change something, you start from within. So hypnosis is unbelievably useful in coming back to where we started, bypassing that critical faculty and giving suggestions, new suggestions to the unconscious mind, instead of the old suggestions that we, without any fault or blame, we used to give our little unconscious minds. So, yeah.
Wonderful. So, from your experience, this is a trick question for everybody, not to you, but what would you say is more effective, self-hypnosis or hetero-hypnosis, when somebody works with you or when you work with yourself?
Both.
Both are better, right?
First of all, both are great. Both are great. So, number one, depends on the individual. I object strongly to put everybody in the same box, because we are all different. We're different individuals and we respond differently. As you know, there are different types of hypnosis. Is direct authoritarian, is indirect permissive. There is then the paradoxical type of hypnosis, a la Dave Ellman, which I mentioned before. So there are different types of hypnosis, and each person responds differently to different types of hypnosis. But also, some people need outside guidance and respond better if somebody else works with them. And some people who choose to learn and train, they can learn eventually how to do it and how to apply self-hypnosis. That doesn't mean that there wouldn't be instances when they still will need outside help. So I would say that both work just as fine, depending on the circumstance, depending on the event, depending what specifically are you working on in the moment. And so I would say that I stay away from putting people in boxes in other way. Oh, that's always this way or always the other way. Because there are different cases, different instances, different moments when we use hypnosis. And sometimes, self-hypnosis works just as well. But sometimes you may need outside help from a qualified, hypnotherapist.
Wonderful. Adriana, thank you so much for your time. Where can people learn more from you, where they can get in touch with you or come to your classes?
So our website is nlpcoaching.com. All our classes are advertised there. We have a lot of also articles. Also, we are on YouTube at the James Company. We also have Facebook groups. You can find me on the Adriana NLP. Also, we are on under the group called Transform the Planet, which I'm very proud of, because Transform
Absolutely.
the Planet has been one of our greatest, actually, value number one in our company for, I don't know, 30 years now or more, starting with James, and it's on all our slides. Now, I wanna just say one thing. We have a wonderful group on Facebook under Transform the Planet. And we know, even with all our graduates, and we have thousands and thousands of graduates all over the world, we know that we can't transform the planet, but you and everybody like you who learns hypnosis and everything else under NLP, timeline therapy, all these kind of skills, you at your turn, you go out and teach somebody else, and then they teach somebody else, and they teach somebody else, and it's the ripple effect. And I am absolutely convinced that together we do have a positive effect. And together, not alone, together, all of us, we can transform the planet. So that's where you can find us.
Awesome. So everybody, if you want to transform the planet, starting with yourself, then go ahead and find Adriana James and Ted James Company's websites, join their Facebook group. Adriana, thank you so much for taking the time, and I'm looking forward to connect with you again soon.
Eugen, it's been a real pleasure. Thank you.
And everybody, and thank you. And everybody else, everybody who's watching, you know what you have to do. You take your piece of paper, take a pen, and write down on that piece of paper or in your notebook, write down the most important idea you got from this presentation. Write it down, pen to paper, and then make sure you put it in a big box there, so it's very clear in your mind and in the paper. And if you want to, of course, feel free to share it with us in the Facebook group or on WhatsApp, on Telegram, wherever we are connected on social media. And we'll see you in the next presentation. And also make sure that if you have not gotten yet your all access pass, make sure to get that, so you have access to all of the recordings from all of the sessions in this summit. So write down the most important idea, take a quick break. We'll see you in the next presentation.